Hi, I'm Charlotte Moser, the co-director of the Vaccine Education Center at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Today on VEC Vaccine Notes, we're going to talk about typhoid. Now, typhoid is not a disease that most people think about very often, but at some point you may have heard of someone being referred to as Typhoid Mary. Today, this phrase is sometimes used to characterize a person who has infected many other people with a particular disease. But in the early 1900s, Typhoid Mary referred to someone specific. Her name was Mary Mallon. Now, Mary was an Irish immigrant who became a cook for wealthy families around New York City. Over time, public health officials realized that typhoid outbreaks were occurring among people who had visited homes where Mary was the cook. Now, Mary was not showing any signs of illness, but it turns out she was a carrier of the bacteria that caused typhoid. So as she prepared meals, particularly foods that didn't need to be cooked before they were served, she could contaminate the food with the bacteria and spread the disease to either other household members or to their guests. Although Mary was quarantined at different times, and she was told to stop taking jobs as a cook because of this ability to spread the disease, Mary didn't listen. And as a result, it's estimated that she infected almost 125 people. 5 of those infections resulted in the person's death. Today, typhoid remains an issue around the world. Each year, about 9 million people are infected, and more than 100,000 people die from this infectious disease. During the next little bit, we're going to talk about typhoid disease and the vaccines that prevent it, common questions we receive here at the Vaccine Education Center, and the relative risks and benefits of this disease and vaccination. So let's get to it. Typhoid is caused by a bacteria known as Salmonella typhi. These bacteria attack the intestines and cause symptoms like fever, stomach pain or lack of appetite, feeling out of sorts, which we call malaise, muscle aches, and about 1 in 5 people will have a rash that occurs most often on the chest, abdomen, and back. Also, when a person has a fever from typhoid, it tends to increase little by little over a period of about a week before decreasing in a similar incremental fashion. Severe cases of typhoid can result in shock, confusion, coma, or even death. Sometimes the lesions that form in the intestine can rupture, and this can cause a person to have internal bleeding, which we call hemorrhaging. Before antibiotics were available, about 1 or 2 of every 10 people with typhoid died from their infection. The bacteria that cause typhoid only infect people, and these bacteria are present in the infected person's feces, so the disease can spread in situations when feces from an infected person contaminate food or water. Most often, this happens in places with low sanitation standards or when sanitation has been compromised, such as following a natural disaster. But as the case of Mary Mallon demonstrates, an infected person can spread the disease, particularly if they use a restroom and don't properly wash their hands before they're preparing food that will not be cooked before being consumed by others. Typhoid is common in the developing areas of Africa, Eastern and Southern Asia, the Eastern Mediterranean, and the Western Pacific. Travelers to higher risk areas can protect themselves by doing things to avoid other infections that can be found in contaminated food or water. They can do things like drinking only bottled water, avoiding ice, and not eating unpeeled fruits, undercooked meats, shellfish, salads, or food from street vendors. A saying that can help people remember what types of foods to avoid is boil it, peel it, or forget it. So let's shift gears and talk about the vaccine. 2 different typhoid vaccines are available in the United States. TY21A is a vaccine that contains a live weakened form of the bacteria. This vaccine is given by mouth in the form of 4 capsules. 1 capsule is taken every other day until all 4 have been consumed. The capsules should be taken with a cold or lukewarm beverage at least 1 hour before a person's ready to eat. This version can be given to people starting at 6 years of age, but it can't be used by people with immune-compromising conditions since it does contain live bacteria. Now, the second vaccine is a polysaccharide-based vaccine, meaning that it uses the sugar coating from the bacteria to generate immunity. This version is given as a single injection, and it should be received at least 2 weeks before the person's going to be traveling. And it can be given to people 2 years of age and older. Typhoid vaccines aren't perfect. Only about 50 to 80 of every 100 people will be protected. So while they help, even after vaccination, people should take care with what they're eating when they're traveling, if they're in a high-risk area. When we think about who's recommended for this vaccine, it's important to realize that most international travelers do not need this vaccine. However, there are a few groups who are recommended for vaccination, mostly based on their travel plans. This includes people who will be traveling to a high-risk area for more than 6 weeks. They'll be staying in rural areas or small towns, or eating uncooked foods, unpeeled fruits, or drinking unbottled water. In terms of side effects, both vaccines can cause a headache or fever, but generally speaking, neither vaccine causes much in the way of side effects. Because the typhoid vaccine is recommended for such a limited number of travelers, we really don't get too many questions about it. However, some people may wonder whether a similarly sounding disease called typhus is the same thing as typhoid. The short answer is no. These are distinct diseases, but they do have similarities, and that is why they were originally thought to be the same disease, and that was what led to their similar names. In terms of things they share, both are caused by bacteria, and both cause similar symptoms like fever, muscle aches, and headaches. But they are caused by different bacteria, and they spread in different ways. As we've discussed, typhoid is caused by the bacteria Salmonella typhi, which is spread in food and water that's contaminated with feces. On the other hand, typhus is caused by bacteria in the Rickettsia and Aurantia families, and those bacteria are spread by fleas, mites, chiggers, and lice. Of note, Anne Frank died of typhus in a German concentration camp. So let's finish up with a look at the relative risks and benefits of typhoid disease and vaccine. Today we talked about the fact that, like cholera and hepatitis A, typhoid is spread through food and water that's contaminated with feces from an infected person. However, typhoid is more like cholera in that it can be mostly avoided by paying attention to the foods one eats and the water one drinks during travel to affected regions. For this reason, the vaccine is not recommended for most people. However, travelers staying in high-risk regions for more than 6 weeks, those visiting small towns or rural areas without standard tourist accommodations or with substandard sanitation, and those who may not be able to avoid consuming potentially contaminated foods or water are recommended for vaccination. When we think about the vaccines, they don't really cause any severe side effects. And for these reasons, when our team evaluated the relative risks and benefits of this disease and vaccine, we agreed that while most people don't need this vaccine, for those in certain travel situations, the benefits of the vaccination do outweigh any risks. We hope once you've had a chance to review this information, you'll feel that way too. Thanks for listening today.